All right, we are open up to page 823 and 824 to correct last night's homework. Here is 823. So we use this table off to the right for both number 1 and 2. For number 1, it said each team in a youth hockey league has 12 forwards and 6 defensemen. Complete the table to show how many forwards and defensemen are on 6 teams. So for forwards, we would start with 12 and go up by 12 each row. For defensemen, we would start with 6 and go up to 6 each row. How many of you correctly completed your table? How many of you correctly completed your table? Awesome. Yes?
I accidentally got the first one wrong.
Yeah?
And I added both of them.
Oh. Okay. You know what? They did kind of say in all, so well, actually, no, they didn't. But that's okay. Just read more carefully next time. But yeah, there are 72 forwards and 36 defensemen in all 6 teams. Will?
So, pretty much, if you get the first one and the last one correct, doesn't that mean you got all the ones in the middle correct?
Well, you could somehow make silly mistakes and still end up at 72 and 36. Yeah. Maybe you accidentally add 11 on this one, but then you add 13 on this one. That would make up the difference, wouldn't it? Yeah. Then for number 2, it said, what relationship do you notice between the number of forwards and the number of defensemen? And so my book said the number of forwards is always twice the number of defensemen. Or you could have said, yeah, the number of defensemen is always half the number of forwards. How many of you noticed that pattern? Either double the amount of forwards or half the amount of defensemen. How many of you noticed that pattern? Good. Good. Do we have questions on number 2? Okay. All right. Let's go ahead on to page 824. So for 824, we had numbers 3 through 5 and 7. So 3 through 5, we use this table. And it said Jamie makes a table to show the relationship between meters, centimeters, and millimeters. You're supposed to use the rule add 100 to complete the column for the number of centimeters, and use the rule add 1,000 to complete the column for the number of millimeters. How many centimeters are in 15 meters? How many millimeters? So if we're looking at this, the relationship we can see is for every meter, we take that and multiply it by 100 for centimeters. And for every meter, we take that and multiply that by 1,000 for millimeters. Because for 1 meter, we have 100 centimeters, 1,000 millimeters. For 5 meters, we have 500 centimeters, 5,000 millimeters. So if we're asking how many are in 15 meters, then we would take 15 times 100 for centimeters for 1,500 centimeters, or 1,500 centimeters. And then we would take 15 times 1,000 for millimeters for 15,000 millimeters. Give me first a thumbs up if you filled out your chart correctly. Give me a thumbs up if you filled out your chart correctly. Okay. Give me a thumbs up if you got 1,500 centimeters and 15,000 millimeters. Awesome, 5th grade. So number 4, they said the distance between Jamie's house and her friend's house is 75 meters, excuse me. If Jamie walks to her friend's house and back, how many centimeters does she walk? Explain. Well, we know one way from Jamie's house to her friend's is 75. She's walking to and from the house. So 75 plus 75 is 150, and that's meters, 150 meters. And we want to know how many centimeters that would be. So we would take 150 and multiply it by 100, which would get us 15,000 centimeters. And they asked us to explain, so you could say, 2 times 75 is 150. So we would take 150 and multiply it by 100 to find out how many centimeters. Will?
I did 75 times 100 is double it.
That's another strategy. You could have taken 75, multiplied it by 100 at that point, which would get you 7,500, then double 7,500 to get 15,000. Nice job. Any other questions or comments for number 4? Okay. How do we feel about number 4? Yeah? Okay. Okay. Then we had number 5. It asks, what relationship do you notice between the number of centimeters and the number of millimeters? My book said there are 10 millimeters for every centimeter. You could have said you multiply the number of centimeters by 10 to get millimeters, or you divide the amount of millimeters by 10 to get the amount of centimeters. Anything like that. Addie.
I said that millimeters have more than 0 centimeters. Does that work?
Yeah, that would work. Yep. As long as you understand how you get that extra 0. Yep. Awesome. Well,
It is always millimeters are 10 times 10.
yes. Yep. That works. Good job. Then we had number 7. So for number 7, it said, at Ashley's nursery, there are 12 rows of trees. In each row, there are 21 pine trees and 7 spruce trees. Make a table to help you solve the following. How many of each type of tree are there in all? So we would want to take 12 times 21 to find out the number of pine trees, which would be 252. And we would take 12 times 7 to figure out the number of spruce trees, which is 84. Show me 1 through 5. How did you feel about this homework assignment in all? 1 through 5, how did you feel? All right, be honest with me. I want to see. How did we feel? Philip and Zoe, how did you feel? Okay. All right, hands down. Open up in your math notebook to the next clean page. We have a few notes to take today.